Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rumble Talk. I'm Kev. I'm with the main man himself, Dan. So, like crazy. Like the last 24 hours have been a bit sort of mad.
Yeah. There's always something to talk about in the world of wrestling. There's mental going on.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's not a dull moment. There's never a dull moment in that wrestling. If anyone says that, they don't know it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just had a load of releases from WWE. Obviously, most notably, Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
There was a few other ones. Dana Brooke was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the full list here. Yeah. So we've got Mustafa Ali, Emma, Riddick Moss, Aaliyah, Elias, Rick Boogs, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, Mace, Mansoor, Dana Brooke, Quincy Elliott, Bryson Montana, Dabba-Kato, Shanky, and Yulisa Leon. And look, the vast majority of them names weren't used.
No.
You would probably say 90% of them, like, I don't think there'll be many WWE fans that really care about, that they've gone because they either weren't on TV, and when they were, you didn't really, care about them. Shelton Benjamin's a bit of a one of them. He's been doing it for so long. It's interesting as to they haven't used either Shelton Benjamin or Cedric, and they've kept Cedric and got rid of Shelton maybe because of his age. I don't know.
I'm wondering whether this isn't the final list, if you know what I mean. If there's going to be more,
there'll be more. Yeah, I do think so. I was talking to one of my friends, Craig, who does sometimes check us out. So if you're watching, hello, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
And he was saying that he said, I hope it isn't as bad as what it was last time when they did all the releases last time. And I said, look, when you look at that list, it's nothing like what it was last time. Like last time, there was there was probably 10 wrestlers on that list last time where you was like, what?
Yeah, you got to think as well. The last lot of big releases was like 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, in fact, 2020. At the height of COVID, we had Keith Lee and Cross and all these other people go, didn't we? Even Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, Aleister Black. It was like what
Adam Cole, Roderick Strong.
Yeah.
No, Roderick Strong. Sorry, he stayed there. It was it was the other guys from. Adam.
It was Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, wasn't it? Because Adam Cole had already said he was leaving because I think he was struggling, like not seeing his fiancée as much as what he wanted to. Obviously, she's now his wife, Britt Baker, but. That one you can kind of understand. I think when I'm looking at that list, Top Dollar's a bit of an interesting one because it's like I don't think they were a bit. I think the Americans liked Hit Row a lot more than the UK audience, the European audience. The European audience didn't call them Hit Row. I mean, I called them Shit Row. To be honest, I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Skid Row.
Again, it's interesting. Like, why only Top Dollar and not B-Fab?
Well, there had been reports before because the group had been released previously, and they brought them back.
Yeah.
Because Swerve was obviously part of the group as well, but he's obviously at AEW. Before then, when the first release was happened, they said there was a lot of heat on Top Dollar. Sort of going around saying he was the man, all that sort of stuff. Sort of a bit, sort of I'm it sort of thing. And I don't think that sat quite well. So there was quite some heat on him. So when they got them back, people were surprised that Top Dollar was brought back because there was quite a lot of heat on him. So maybe that's why they've just got rid of him, because I know previously there was quite a bit of heat on him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. That did kind of make me think that's a bit of an odd one. Why do I want to get rid of one of them? I think the only one that's genuinely a big shock is Mustafa Ali because he was being used on NXT. He was due to wrestle Dominic Mysterio
next Saturday. Next weekend at No Mercy, he was. But then again, it's not the first time they've released someone when they've got a match like that. They've done it before.
It was with
Drake Maverick, I believe.
It was Drake Maverick. Yeah,
he was in the I think it was the cruiserweight tournament.
Yeah.
And they released him while he was halfway through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the first time that they've advertised someone and then released them for a match. I'm surprised. Like I said, I'm surprised about Ali. But like I said to you when I was messaging you, you were surprised about Dolph Ziggler. He hadn't been on there for a very long time.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by Dolph Ziggler. I was gutted about Dolph Ziggler because, look, I think if you look back to WWE between 2012 and 2014, Dolph Ziggler was one of the biggest names in the company.
Yeah, world heavyweight champion.
I mean, is a two-time world heavyweight champion, he's a 6-time intercontinental champion. He was unbelievable. And I always think back to him at Survivor Series, where he basically beat Kane and Seth Rollins and a couple of others himself. It was like 4-on-1 or something, and he ended up beating all of them, even with Triple H trying to get involved and screw him. I think I always kind of coined the phrase unicorn a lot, which there aren't many unicorns in that world, where you're either good at one or the other. You're either great on how big of a fan I am of LA Knight, but he isn't a unicorn. He's world class on the mic. He's good in the ring, but I don't think anyone would necessarily look at LA Knight in the ring and say you're on the same level in the ring with Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles. He isn't. He's very very good, and he's very very good in the ring, but he isn't like a unicorn. Is someone who is world class at both.
Yeah,
both
definitely.
in the ring and on the mic. And Dolph Ziggler was a unicorn, and I'm stunned specifically over the last 5 or 6 years that he's just barely been used. I think they've completely.
I think he had. I don't know if he had injuries or something. I know they teamed him up with Rude, and then he got injured.
Do you know what I think it is, mate? Honestly, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I honestly think Dolph Ziggler's problem is he's too nice. Too much of a yes man. Yes, boss. I'll do that, boss. Yes, boss. Okay, boss. Yeah. Like, didn't push back, didn't question things, I can't imagine for a second Dolph Ziggler backstage to Vince McMahon and Triple H going, this is fucking bullshit. I should be in the main event. Blah, blah, blah. Like, he isn't like that. And I do think for some, it's like, of course, Miz has carried on, being very, very successful in what he's done in the company. But I think, Miz is another example. Could Miz have potentially won more and had more main events had he not have been such a big, yes guy kind of thing? Because I do think a lot of the time, I mean, Randy Orton wasn't happy with his position a couple of years ago, and then obviously was being very cryptic on Twitter and posting stuff relating to AEW. And then the next thing, he signed a massive 5-year contract with a lot of money. And then there was Owens. Kevin Owens was pushing back, saying he wasn't happy with his position in the company, and he was thinking about not re-signing. All of a sudden, it's like guys like that are going to go, no, I'm better than what you're giving me, and if you're not going to give me what I think I'm due, I will leave. And then at that point, then the higher ups in the company have to either go, well, we don't see him as any bigger than what he's let him go, or it's a case of shit, right? We need to offer him a lot of money and try and tie him down. But there's numerous people that's happened. So obviously Ambrose, it didn't end up happening like that. They ended up offering Ambrose an outrageous amount of money, and he wouldn't even look at it because he was that pissed off and that frustrated with certain things that had happened. But I do think people that are phenomenally talented. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like a Cameron Grimes, who has the potential to be a star, because it is. I remember even Triple H referencing it when he was on NXT, that the reason why Triple H liked him is because he was very much, yes, boss, I'll do that, boss. I think a lot of the time people like that. I mean, it's not just in wrestling, in life. If you're a bit of a pushover and you let people walk all over you, you'll get walked all over.
Yeah,
and I think that's why Dolph Ziggler's career ended up kind of being the way it was, which for me is such a shame, because he could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
Than what he ended up doing. But
I think it's a little. There was, like I said, there was two shocks, which was obviously Ali and Dolph Ziggler. Another one that really shocked me actually was Rick Boosh, because he was so, like, at one point WWE was so high on him, but he obviously got injured at WrestleMania.
Yeah, blew out his knee at Mania, didn't he?
Yeah, he blew out his knee, and then he came back, and I think they struggled then.
They didn't know what to do with him.
We didn't know what to do with him. They moved him from SmackDown to Raw, which I think they should have kept him on SmackDown. They should have just brought him back into the same thing that he was doing before, coming out with the Qatar sort of, I'm Rick Boosh, that sort of thing. But they sort of changed his character when he came back, and they put him on Raw, and then they didn't know what to do with him.
No, I think, look, Rick Boogs kind of struck gold that he was handed the opportunity to come out with Shinsuke, and I think anyone could kind of foresee that he was going to struggle after that. I think him doing that suited him. It suited his personality. He was a bit of, he was obviously into his rock stuff. He was a bit out there and eccentric, and I think him being Shinsuke's hype man worked really, really well. And then people got behind him, and then obviously they made them into a tag team. And unfortunately, he injured himself at Mania when he was tagging with Shin. But I don't think it's a surprise that once they pulled him away from that character, that he struggled. It's like, and I think you could make the exact same argument about
Elias.
They did that. They were struggling. They're struggling to know what to do with him. The Elias thing had run its course. They ended up doing the Ezekiel thing, which ended up working really well. It was really funny. A lot of people enjoyed it.
Especially with Kevin Owens.
It was really funny. Yeah, the stuff with Kevin Owens, it was comedy gold. And then, I mean, I see some. Sean Rossap tweeted something like, "What?" Because on his thing, he's tweeted saying that he was grateful for being able to play all these characters. And he's like, he's just confirmed that Elias actually is Ezekiel. I can't believe it.
They should have kept that. He shouldn't have said anything. They should have said, "What's that going to happen with my brother now?" With that should have been. He could have played on that quite a bit.
Yeah, but I do. So like, when the Ezekiel thing had kind of ran its course, and that was one thing that I think, I actually will give WWE credit where it's deserved, because a lot of the time they don't know when to pull the plug on something. Sometimes they can run things into the ground where it isn't working, and then they keep going and keep going and keep going, and it just ends up being awful. The second that the Ezekiel thing was starting to kind of run out of steam and they didn't know what to do with it, they pulled it and then they switched him back to being Elias. But then again, that just kind of didn't work.
There's, like I said, even though what Dolph Ziggler, I think he like you're saying, 2012, 2016, that was his time, and then he struggled after that. He struggled to get over. Ali is always, he's one of those characters where you think he's going to be really good. He's got talent. He's got massive amounts of it, but he just struggled to get over. And it's the same. We were speaking about it on the messages. It's the same with Killian Cross as well. He's struggling to get over with the crowd, and it's like, he's massively talented. The character's good, but the crowd just, I don't know, it's not clicking.
Yeah. And that's something that we were kind of questioning last week, that kind of why. Because sometimes you can see it and you can understand why, but then when you get people like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa struggling to get themselves over in the main roster, it's like I don't necessarily think it's something that they're doing wrong, because we know how good they are. We've seen them for 4 or 5 years on NXT. We know how incredible they are. But it does make me wonder sometimes why people like that really struggle to get over on the main roster, because when they're that good, I find it baffling when the crowd just doesn't react.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's strange, isn't it? You see things like Killian Cross, you think his gimmick's good, his in-the-ring ability's good, and you think he's not getting over, and then you see someone like LA Knight and you go, this guy's phenomenal in NXT.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
he's so over. They bring him to the main roster, and he's so over there as well. And it's like, so why can't that transition with a lot of other characters? I just don't know. I don't know.
I think that you know what does kind of the plot thickens when you start talking about LA Knight, because he was very much the same when he first came up from the main roster and he was doing the whole Max Dupree thing. No one cared, which is why Mason and Mansoor have gone. And I think if Maxine hadn't very luckily been put with the Alpha Academy, she'd have been dumped and all. But very, very, very fortunate for her, she's been put with Chad and Otis, and Chad's fantastic. But I think when LA Knight first came up, and then when they did switch him from Max Dupree back to LA Knight, it took months. Like for the first 3 or 4 months, no one cared, and then all of a sudden, but he didn't change anything. And this is what I'm saying. It's not always you need to change your character, because like people could say maybe Ciampa and Gargano's gimmick in NXT worked in NXT, but it's not working on the main roster. They need to change it. But like I disagree with that, because LA Knight has done nothing different. He's carried on doing the same thing.
Is as well, LA Knight,
it's gone boom.
Yeah, well, LA Knight is doing what they've obviously said to LA Knight, they've gone, do what you want, because the thing that he says, he was doing that in Impact Wrestling when he was in Impact. But before then, this is how integral and why you need to really watch what WWE have and people coming up, is because there was a Triple H training, a fitness DVD that he did.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
He did a fitness DVD. I think it was in 2013, 14, around that sort of time. And LA Knight is one of the people who's with Triple H doing the training. And in that video, he does,
yeah,
all the time. And I'm like, now he's doing that, and it's huge. And it's like, they've obviously just said to him, you just be you. Just go out and be LA Knight.
I think that for me is, I think that's the only thing that makes any sense. Is the difference is LA Knight was given consistency and time.
Yeah,
he was given that 3 months before the crowd started buying into it. But then you get people like Ciampa and Gargano's been struggling with injuries, so you can't really include Gargano in that. But like people like Karrion Kross, it's like you'll see them for 2 or 3 weeks, the crowd doesn't react to them, and then you don't see them for weeks or months. So like it's like someone in creative kind of goes, well, it isn't working at the minute with him, but we'll give him time. But like then other people will go, no, you've had 2 SmackDowns, no one's reacting. No, you pull.
Yeah, I think the problem lies they've got. You kind of go, Raw is too long, but I kind of go, SmackDown isn't long enough. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, there's other people that even like you're saying with Cameron Grimes, he's on SmackDown. We haven't seen him.
No,
we know he's there. Maybe it's because they haven't got the time, and this is the problem. They go through these stages, but the problem, the more time you've got off TV, there's more of a chance of you being released.
Yeah.
Before you can actually show your potential. But the great thing is, with WWE, is all these releases that they've done. Now, if they go off to Impact or AEW and they start blowing up, WWE start going, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe we can have a second chance. Maybe we can go back there and that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people go, will they come back? I think certain people will come back. I think things like, I don't think Dean Ambrose will come back. Not unless, drastic things change, I think, for him. Keith Lee, I could see coming back. I could see him coming back to WWE. Dolph Ziggler, I could see coming back as well.
Yeah, I'd probably say no to Keith Lee, just because I think age-wise, I think he's a bit older than what people think. He's had a lot of injuries, and I don't necessarily think he's got that long left. Maybe.
Well, so you sort of say that, you go, oh, he's quite old and that, but then you look at LA Knight. LA Knight is, was he 40, is he?
Yeah, 40, 42, something like that.
Yeah, he's pushing that sort of thing. Yeah, he's, you know what I mean? He's old as well in terms of like the wrestling biz, because it's normally that prime age, isn't it, between 20 and 35. So after that, your body starts giving up.
But I just think he might not actually be as old as what I think. I just think when I watch him wrestling, he looks tired. He looks like he's had a lot of injuries.
I think it was said during COVID, because he was released and it came out that he had COVID and he had complications, and that's why he didn't come on the main roster very often, Keith Lee. So I'm wondering whether those health issues have now caught up with him, sort of thing. And now they're playing.
I would probably throw his old AEW tag partner in there, though. I could see Swerve potentially coming back.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Swerve's character in AEW is very, very different to what he was doing on NXT. Very different.
Yeah, and this is all these releases as well. I mean, a lot of people were saying that it was ill judged because it was done the same time they announced a £1 billion contract for the move for SmackDown going to USA. But it's just the way the business is. I think it's just, you know what I mean. You can't stop stuff. You can't sort of plan these sort of things. I think they just happen the way they do. So sort of turning around going, well, that's a bit of a kick in the balls. You know, you've just announced the two, but yeah, well, it's a TV deal, mate. You're just, John Cena said it many times, and so is Chris Jericho. You know, they're just a cog in a system.
Yeah. And
they just get taken out and replaced. And I think a lot of these younger talent look at themselves as the machine, if you know what I mean, not the actual cog. And us as fans as well, I think we're quite critical on that as well. You know, the system's still going to, you know, the machine's still going to run if you take away Dolph Ziggler. It's not going to fall apart. Just someone else will step in the void. So it doesn't matter if they come out and go, oh, you know, we've just signed. You know, if they come out now and said, we signed Jade Cudler, right? It's Cudler, isn't it?
Cargill,
that's it. Sorry. Yeah, Jade Cargill, right? And they go, oh, we've just signed her, and it comes out that she's, you know, making a lot of money. You know, us as fans are going to go, hang on a minute, you've just got rid of a load. But then again, she's just a system in the cog, and obviously they value her more. But, you know, I think it's difficult when all these elements are in place, sort of thing. But you've now got this new company, you know, the TKO holdings now. So there's no blame on Vince McMahon, because obviously he's now left. So a lot of these cuts, you can't even go, what's Vince talking about? What's Vince doing? Well, actually, it's not. It's this new group's doing it, and they just told Khan, who isn't a wrestling fan, we've mentioned it many times, and he's just culling people as he see fit. So, yeah, like a double-edged sword, really, because, you know what I mean, there's potential there for some of them. Aaliyah, I don't think, you know, she recently she done that match, didn't she, with Natty, and it was a world record for the quickest win, 3:21 or something. And they've obviously released her, but once again, they didn't really do anything with her. They didn't know what to do, and I think that's the problem with a lot of these releases, is they've not known what to do. I mean, like one of the NXT guys, Quincy.
Yeah,
I think that gimmick he had was a counter gimmick for like Sonny Kiss and some of the other, where he was like the male diva sort of thing.
I mean, I kind of got a bit of like Velveteen Dream vibes off him.
Yeah, I think he had that. Once again, I think he struggled to get over. I think they forced it, and the crowd didn't, especially on NXT, they just didn't get it, I don't think. They just were like...
Yeah.
Shanky, he was another one that was surprised, because he actually featured heavily in the India pay-per-view that they just done.
Yeah. So
I was quite surprised by that. I was like, oh, hang on a minute. They just promoted him he had a quite good match. I think he had a match with Sheamus at the pay-per-view, or the premium live event that they did in India. And they were really high on him. So I don't know why they got rid of him. Once again, I think they struggled to place him. He's one of those characters. He was like this happy guy, weren't he, walking around? They just didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And then you had Maximum Male Models. Well, you could tell what was going to happen now, I think, right from the beginning. Though it's later come out, I think Monsoon has come out and he said the reason they didn't have a lot of matches was because the Saudi deal that brought him in said he couldn't lose a match.
Yeah.
And so that killed this. I think that just killed it straight there because it meant that he couldn't lose a match on TV. And also, as well, it's quite interesting is that he said that Vince McMahon was heavily involved with Maximum Male Models. He loved it and would help them do their lines and do their promos and all that sort of stuff. Sort of shows you what sort of he's like, really. All these sort of ones that we're like, they're rubbish. It's Vince McMahon's idea behind the thing, and he's like pushing it. But they didn't really do. Once again, they didn't really know what to do. I see a character like Reggie as well in NXT. But once again, they don't know what to do with him. Once they took him away from Nia Jax and Carmella, they didn't know what to do with Reggie, and he's just been pottering about. And I can see him potentially being on the chopping block as well. So
yeah, there probably is still a few to come. That again, but I do think it will be people that that we won't really miss.
It's the way of wrestling, isn't it? It's really, it's we all sort of, we all sort of go, oh my god, Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali are gone, but in 6 months' time, we would have forgotten about them. They'll be maybe on AEW or Impact. They'll be on something else, and the machine and everything just carries on, doesn't it?
I think fans of theirs, so like me with Dolph.
Yeah.
Ali, I was never really a fan of just because I couldn't really get him as a character. Like you couldn't really connect with him. Like you can't argue with his in-ring ability. He was fantastic in the ring. He just couldn't get over even a fraction. I do think even people like Ziggler, there's no guarantee that they will go to AEW and be used because there are people that have gone to AEW. And you would think they're going to be massive on AEW because of how good they were, and then they barely used.
Yeah, I expect Dolph Ziggler to turn up in AEW and maybe team with his brother because obviously his brother's there at the moment.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be somewhere where he goes. But yeah, I suppose we'll all know in 90 days' time, which is I think the 20th of December. So we might not see anything until January time before they turn up in places. But yeah, it's interesting. I think Dolph Ziggler would do well in AEW, but whether or not
I think he would bring some knowledge and experience that they probably desperately need.
Since Punk's gone and Brian sort of moved up slightly, and it's all sort of. They're really missing that star power, which I think, despite what happened with Punk, he brought over on AEW.
Yeah, I mean that's one that I would love to see one last run in WWE is Daniel Bryan, but I don't think we'll ever get it, and I don't think we'll get it because look, this is why the best thing to ever happen in the world of wrestling is Cody Rhodes' return to WWE because now you can never say never. Because I've just stopped myself there because what I was about to say was I can't see Daniel Bryan ever returning because Tony Khan is placing him so high up in the hierarchy. Well, how high up in the hierarchy was Cody Rhodes? He was the vice president of the company.
Well, yeah, where he was. So it was the main force behind AEW.
Yeah, it was the
his idea,
the main creative drive, and it was the vice president. It was, when AEW was first starting out, it was Cody Rhodes making all the phone calls to all the wrestlers to try and get them to sign up. And if Cody hadn't have got the Young Bucks, Omega, and Chris Jericho very, very quickly, they'd have struggled. But I think if you didn't have Rhodes there making them phone calls, I think there'd have been a lot of the wrestlers that people like Orange Cassidy and Black Jungle Boy and stuff who might have had offers for Ring of Honor at the time or Impact or NJPW, or maybe even been like, you know, potentially wanting to do a tryout at WWE. I think if that's back then, if you go back like 5 years, if that's Tony Khan making that phone call and not Cody Rhodes, they probably go, no, you're all right.
Yeah. I mean, Cody said he's never going to talk about what happened and why he left. But it does interest me on what sort of went down. You know what I mean? Obviously, money's a big thing, but I don't look at Cody and go, he's moved there for the money.
No.
Something happened, I think, at AEW. I don't think we'll ever find out. Maybe we will in a couple of years when they do a shoot interview or whatever.
I mean, to be fair, I think
it'd be interesting to know what went down.
I think a lot of the rumors at the time make a lot of sense as to why he left, which is it's all down to what I was saying earlier about, you know, Owens, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and people who were not happy with the position in the company. I think what had happened was Cody wasn't happy with the way he was being used on TV.
Yeah.
For the last like 5 or 6 months of his time in AEW, he was signing a rolling month-by-month contract because Tony Khan couldn't afford to offer him a full-time contract because of how many of the ex-WWE guys that was getting released. And Tony Khan was going, I only want to sign you because I want my AEW fans to be able to go, ha ha, fuck you, WWE, you let go of him, now we've got him. It was like petty and childish. I think he signed people that he knew that he wouldn't. I mean, there was like 2 or 3 of the women that showed a lot of talent in NXT that they signed, and they've only appeared on Dark. They've never appeared on, you know, a Dynamite or anything like that. I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was that big thing with Big Swole, weren't there? When she was released, and she said she's not very good at creative. She said if you've got no creative bone in what, you're not going to do well in AEW. And some other people have come out and said other things as well. But you got Aberdeen and all these great characters and women, and they just there's been some heavy criticism actually lately about how they've used the women on AEW. Even Paige or Saraya, even herself has criticised. You know, they done the Outcast thing, and then she said, "What happened?" Oh, hang on a second, sorry. She said, you know, someone tweeted, I think, what happened to the Outcast? And she said, yeah, exactly what happened. I don't know. I can't tell you. Sort of fizzled out. And then they've all liked actually some tweets that people have put out saying, like, criticising the women's division on AEW. So I don't know what's happening there. I think, you know, you can't turn around and say they haven't got enough TV time to display the women, because obviously you've got Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, then you've got all the ROH tapings as well. So there's definitely potential, but I don't know what's happening over there with the women.
I think for me, Cody leaving was exactly that kind of, hang on a minute, I'm the head of creative, I am basically designing and structuring every single show, every pay-per-view. I'm the guy that every single talent is coming to ask for help on promos and, you know, matches and all that kind of creative stuff. He was the vice president of the company and a full-time wrestler as well. Yeah. And I think he was just kind of like, hang on a minute, you can't afford to give me a long-term contract because you're signing people that you have no intention of using, that you're only signing them just to get involved in this kind of bitter war that doesn't even exist. Yeah. You know, like, and I think he wasn't happy with, as great of a wrestler as people like Aleister Black or Malachi Black, whatever you want to call him, as good as they were, there was 3 or 4 that came in. There was ex-WWE guys. There was Shawn Spears. There was Malachi Black. There was a couple of others that came in for Cody to put over, take the loss to make them look good, and then not use them anyway. And I think he was like, hang on a minute, I'm doing more in this company than anyone, yet you're handing out massive contracts to people that are only wrestling, and you're not even they're not even main eventers. They're not even on every Dynamite. You don't even use them every week. Yet you're giving them massive money contracts that you can't afford to give me a permanent long-time contract when I'm running the whole fucking show for you and wrestling for you. And I think that I think that's it makes a lot of sense. Put yourself in Cody Rhodes' position. You're going to be pissed off.
Yeah, it's interesting because like he was the guy that really brought it all together, and then he came back. But like you're saying, you can never say never. I still think Dolph Ziggler will come back. We may even get some of the other ones as well, because what happens is, Zack Ryder, we all know Matt. He turned around and said, actually, he put a statement out on Twitter saying, this could be the start or the end of your career. It's your decision. But if you want it to be the start, then it's probably going to be the best thing you'll ever do. And he says, go out there, work hard, and it will pay. And he said, there's money there. There's money to be made. Go and make it. So, and then what happens is they get that momentum. They become bigger. And then I think some of these stars that are going to be released, like he said, it's going to make or break them. And if it makes them, there's a high potential of them coming back to WWE, because WWE see potential in people. They're not going to turn around and go, oh, well, we had them before and they're not that good. As we've seen many times where they've released someone and they've gone, we've both sat here and we've gone, they're not very good or they haven't done very well. They've gone on to other shows, Impact, AW, and have gone bigger, and then they've come back because WWE have gone, hang on a minute, we want you back. There's potential. We didn't see it before. MJF, I think, might be one of them. There was that real thing in the ring with him and William Regal that I think wasn't staged, it was real. Where he turned around, he goes, "I come to you, and what did you say? I wasn't good enough." And he goes, "No, that's right. I told you it wasn't good enough." And he said, "What did you do? I told you to go out there and become better, and you have." And he goes, "Now look at you. You're the top of the company now." Yeah. And he goes, "You're going to have a bidding war soon on people who want you." And he goes, "Now I did, Regal said that I helped him do that. I helped you, MJF, do that by telling you weren't good enough. And then you went, hang on a minute, I am." And you went off and you made yourself better. And I think a lot of the stuff that we're going to see from these releases is they're going to go off and do better things and then maybe come back. I don't see many of them. That's not harsh or whatever. I just don't see it. But I think Dolph Ziggler will come back. That's my opinion. Maybe Rick Booge as well, because I think he's one of those characters that they release and then go, oh, maybe we've made a mistake. It's not the first time. I mean, look at who was it? They released from NXT, and was it Keith Lee that they released and then brought him back straight away, and Triple H and Samoa Joe as well. That was it, Samoa Joe. You remember when he was released on NXT? Yeah. And Triple H, WWE released him. Triple H went, "What the hell are you doing?" And then they brought him straight back to NXT. So maybe someone.
Look, he's another one who's kind of proved people in WWE wrong, because they basically medically retired him.
Yeah.
They said, "Look, you can't do it anymore." And then if you look at the quality of matches he's had on AEW, he clearly can. He clearly can still do it. So I mean,
there's that infamous picture of him standing out in the rain with Michael Cole on the commentary. I think, like you said, I think he was itching to get back, but WWE were like, I don't think you've got it anymore, Joe. You're quite good on the mic. We'll keep you on the commentary. And I don't think he liked it. Because you got to think, he was released, he came back, and then he left. He wasn't released, he left.
Yeah. And
he went to AEW, where, like I said, he's still got it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that whole is why I said it back then. I mean, we did a podcast 18 months ago now, like when Cody returned at Mania, And I said, like, it's the biggest thing to have ever happen in the world of wrestling, because now you can never ever say that's never going to happen. You just can't, because the one that was the most impossible was Cody, and it happened. So who knows?
Never say never.
No, I think I personally would love. I mean, I know he goes by his real name in AEW, Bryan Danielson. I would just love one last run as Daniel Bryan back in AEW. Back in WWE.
Yeah, I still think I think he's going to stay in AEW for a while. He's already said that this is his last year, so a lot of his matches now are going to be dream matches because he wants to spend more time with, obviously, his wife and kids before, he's seen the deterioration of a lot of wrestlers, and I think he doesn't want to get like that. He still wants to go around, run around after his kids. I still think that WWE would come along with an offer and say, look, we've got a backstage deal for you. A Legends deal even, part-time, whatever. A Legends deal.
I think the thing is, though, is Tony Khan is placing Bryan very, very, very high up within the high of AEW. So as much as,
but then again, so is Cody. So
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
High up there. So Cody was higher.
Cody was higher than what Bryan will probably ever be within AEW, which is what I'm saying. We can never say never now. I hope one day. I think people like Jericho, I can't see, as much as I would love Chris Jericho to just have one last showing at WWE and be able to say goodbye. I would I can't see it, and I think Ziggler I would love to see return, but you need to remember he's been there nearly 20 years. So if he does spend 2 years in AEW, by that time he's been a professional wrestler for 22 years. Will he want to carry on going if that call comes?
Definitely. But it's been an interesting talking point. But we're gonna call it a day today. It's been a nice little discussion about the releases and stuff. We'll obviously be back next week. Share, click, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. But we're going to leave it there today. Obviously, I've been Kev.
I've been Dan. Take it easy, guys.
And we'll see you at the next one, guys. Take it easy.